Joining me today to discuss cybersecurity is Mark Toussaint of OWL Cyber Defense. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Sid.
Industrial cybersecurity includes a broad range of products and services. And just to start this, I always like to ask people, where do you fit in that market, and what makes your products special?
Okay. Well, first off, thank you for having me today. If you look at OWL's business, traditionally we came out of the government realm, DoD, NSA. About 12 years ago, there were some mandated regulations that enabled us to move our technology into the nuclear realm. So I'm focused on critical infrastructure and sort of the 14 different verticals that are defined by the Department of Homeland Security as critical infrastructure. OWL as a company is dedicated to building data diodes that enable deterministic one-way data flow using a hardware-based approach. And what that means is that using a hardware-based approach versus a software-based firewall or unidirectional gateway, it is unhackable. Data cannot flow in the other direction. So our products are unique in that we've adhered our strategy to the Department of Homeland Security of the 7 strategies for protecting industrial control networks, which fundamentally boils down to everything that can be moved into a deterministic one-way flow out of a protected network should be. Remaining connections that have to be into the network for moving patches and software updates need to be protected by a data diode one-way in, and everything else that has to be bidirectional needs to be locked down in a secure point-to-point communication. So that's a little bit of an overview of where OWL came from in our products today and our strategy.
Are you seeing, we see, I don't want to say it's just starting by any means, but there's certainly an increase lately in interest in cybersecurity, and companies are seeing that. And I'm just curious if you're seeing the same thing, as well as if that's helping to ease some of the funding hurdles that companies have to face.
Certainly, we see the same thing. And over the last year and a half, we've seen a rapid change in the dynamics of the market for data diodes. And what's driving this is that there's an awareness that for certain critical infrastructure, high-value assets, the traditional firewall or traditional industrial firewall or unidirectional gateway technology is just not enough. So customers are deploying data diodes to either augment those architectures or in some cases replace those architectures. If you go back and look at the history of OWL, we started on the critical infrastructure side in the nuclear companies, and over time that's evolved into power generation, T&D, oil and gas, and those have traditionally been our stronghold market segments. And we're seeing a continued evolution into new market segments every year. For instance, last year we saw a tremendous uptick in the amount of interest in water, wastewater, an explosion of IoT, IoT, cloud services, new industrial protocols. So we're seeing, that increased awareness, and in 2019, that's even expanding further into vertical markets that are in the critical infrastructure realm, but yet more commercial in nature, things like financial services, healthcare, and a large uptick in the industrial automation space.
One of the things that's come up at this event, and I've been writing a lot about myself, is the issue of IT and OT, trying to bring those two together from a cybersecurity perspective. So is that something that OWL can help them with? And if so, how can you help them with that?
Absolutely. If you look historically where OWL came from, we were using data diodes to protect the boundary between the OT and the IT environments. With the convergence of IT and OT, the fundamental problem of protecting those critical assets or critical networks hasn't changed. In fact, it's gotten a little bit worse because with the convergence of these environments, you've got more integration, more complexity, new use cases that need to be supported, and essentially we've amplified the problem. And we see at OWL that data diodes now are becoming, in this convergence of IT and OT, become an enabling technology, enabling our customers to microsegment critical assets or critical networks, and playing a large role in an overall strategy of, I know I need to integrate my IT and OT environments. I've got to integrate cloud, edge devices, IIoT. Data diodes can play a formidable role in that strategy of how do I get from point A to point B.
You mentioned IoT, and that's another obviously hot topic. And I'm just wondering, from the point of view of what kind of products or services does I'll offer to help people with the IoT or digital transformation type initiatives that we're seeing today.
As I mentioned, we're seeing sort of an explosion in these new use cases of IoT, IoT, cloud services, edge devices, remote assets. And so with this change comes a need to sort of go above and beyond what you've done before, and it drives OWL to develop new use cases of how to support these new applications. But just as importantly, it drives us to have more flexibility in our product portfolio from a perspective of protecting a nuclear power plant with large data flows coming out is quite different from protecting a solar farm out in the middle of the desert that has a trickle of data that occasionally flows out. So we're expanding our product portfolio, developing new use cases to develop products that are more fit for purpose for the particular use case and application that they're designed to fit into. And this comes from a functional standpoint, from a price point standpoint, and a delivery standpoint. In order to meet these new requirements for these edge devices and IoT, it requires that I'll respond to new customer requirements for different types of protocols. The data diode technology has been around for a long time. It's the stable core of the OWL product offering. The details are how do we get at the data? And all of these new use cases are bringing with them new protocols of how we need to work within those infrastructures to grab the data and secure those communications.
Are those your major initiatives? Because I normally ask people, if there's any new initiatives that you're planning and how that might change your value proposition. But
well, I think that
you just described a lot of things.
Yeah, I talked about we're needing these new requirements are demanding that we drive new initiatives in our product portfolio. In simplistic terms, we need small, medium, and large, and we need to continue to support these new protocols. And in many cases where historically we may be monitoring syslog traffic or doing file transfer, well, now onto a remote asset. We not only need to monitor, but we need to provide better than firewall type security to do remote command and control in a bidirectional communication method. So our Recon product, our new Recon product, has been designed to enable a bidirectional two-way communication path, leveraging diode level security. So those are some of the areas that you'll see in 2019. We have a number of new initiatives that will hit the market that are designed to hit and address those new customer requirements that are brought about not only by the convergence of OT and IT, but by the advent or proliferation of the IIoT, cloud services, IIoT, and just generally, how do we secure remote assets?
Well, it sounds like you're going to have a very exciting year coming up here. So it's been a pleasure talking with you today, Mark.
Okay, Sid, thank you for your time.
We've been speaking with Mark Toussaint, who's product manager at OWL Cyber Defense. Thank you for watching.